Howard Lutnick believes Jeffrey Epstein is disgusting, but not so disgusting that he won't take his whole family to Epstein's island for lunch. This is simply a normal day. The Epstein files are still coming out for some reason, even though they were supposed to be released months ago. New information is continually coming to light.
This morning, a new document coming to light claims in the mid-2000s, President Trump called police about Jeffrey Epstein. Among the 3 million Epstein files released by the Department of Justice last month is a 4-page FBI report on an interview the Bureau conducted in 2019 with a man believed to be former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Reiter. Reiter and his detectives began investigating Epstein for human trafficking in 2004. According to the document, Trump called Reiter around that time and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this."
That's fascinating, but it doesn't really fit with this.
Did you have any suspicions that he was molesting young women,
No, I had
underage
no
women?
idea. I had no idea.
Trump has long denied having any knowledge of Epstein's crimes, but Reiter says Trump was one of the very first people to call when people found out that they were investigating Epstein.
That really does make sense. If you find out that the man you sent a signed birthday card with a picture of your breasts and pubic hair on it that said, "May every day be another wonderful secret," was being investigated for sex crimes, calling the police to say, "Thank God you're putting a stop to this sick man's abhorrent behavior," seems like a good idea to me. So, the President of the United States may have lied about how much he really knew about his millionaire pedophile pal. But if that's all there is to this cover-up, it's still bad. But at least we can claim that the Trump administration's hiding of information is finished.
The Justice Department, meanwhile, invited members of Congress to view the Epstein files at DOJ headquarters. And many lawmakers are pointing out that many of those files still remain redacted.
What I saw that bothered me were the names of at least 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated by their inclusion in these files.
There are 6 men, some of them with their photographs, that have been redacted, and there's no explanation why those people were redacted.
Wait a second. I suppose there is a very easy reason why they have been censored. You know how you sometimes believe a Sharpie has a really fine tip, but when you take off the cap, you find out it's the size of the Washington Monument? It happens all the time. So I'm sure they merely used that marker and mistakenly covered over a few more names than they'd planned. But Massey and Cana, the buddy police movie that none of us knew we needed, are on the case and have a little insight as to who's beneath all that black ink.
At least one is a U.S. citizen, at least one is a foreigner, and the other 3 or 4 have names. I'm not sure if they're foreign or U.S.
In which field do they work in? Is it finance, banking, political?
One is pretty high up in the foreign government.
And some are, one of the others is a pretty prominent individual.
Hey, can you hear that? Yeah, that's the sound of every wealthy man defending himself. I know, sounds tinier than you anticipated, but one affluent Caucasian man has already done his due research. I speak, of course, of Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, whose contact with Jeffrey Epstein was recently shown to be considerably more extensive than he'd previously indicated, and that assertion was that he saw Epstein in 2005, and I think his words were "one and absolutely done." But as the phrase goes, in life, there are no absolutes, particularly when it comes to Howard Lutnick and pedophilia.
Why did the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York.
Just to stress how astronomically affluent these folks are, no one who lives in New York City considers their flat a home unless their place physically looks like a house. But please continue.
Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him, and then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again.
That's correct. Never again. But this time, it was a true never again, not like all of those previous never agains.
My wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
To be fair, you know how it is in a relationship. Couples say plenty of things. Some folks vow they'll never have kids. Other couples pledge they'll never socialize with someone who molests youngsters. Same difference. So Howard Lutnick came before the Senate today only so that he could come clean, but for real this time, about the scope of his connection with Epstein. And everyone had the same question for him that they had for Tom Hanks about his time shooting Cast Away. Were you actually on that island?
Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour.
So, not only did Howard Lutnick lie his face off about how gross he found Jeffrey Epstein, he now expects us to believe that his lunch on Epstein Island, which according to Lutnick's own wife, consisted of a crowd, 2 families, each with 4 kids ranging in ages from 7 to 16, only lasted 1 hour. I don't even have kids, and I know that's impossible. I've sat at tables next to kids in restaurants, and it takes them an hour simply to try to concentrate on the menu. Look, do I think that Howard Lutnick was engaged in some illegal actions, as Epstein and many of the other persons in these papers were? Not necessarily. But the fact that he lied over and over again doesn't really make me trust him either when he says something like this.
To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but...
Oh, I could take a guess. It may be because you're a billionaire, and when you have that type of great fortune, it's easy to lose perspective on the suffering of others. Why should a few young girls being trafficked and raped stand in the way of you and your family eating al fresco on the Isle of Epstein, or Kid Rock, as I like to call it? But maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe I don't want to represent Mr. Lutnick as merely some crazy aristocrat.
I looked through the millions of documents for my name, just like everybody else.
Okay, delete what I said. Everybody else? You believe everybody throughout the nation is doing that? Preschool instructors, Uber drivers, social workers, everybody was simply taking a swing that maybe, without them knowing it, their bank account would have acquired a few zeros, and their name might be in the Epstein files? Not likely. By the way, before today's hearing, Howard Lutnick made his way around the corridors of Congress, and, let's just say there have been lovely strolls.
People about your interactions with Epstein?
Did you have any financial involvement with Jeffrey Epstein?
Why did you keep contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he pled guilty to sex crimes?
Come on, give us some space. Give us some space.
What do you say to the Democrats calling on for you to resign?
Give us some space.
Mr. Epstein, people of your level in the British government have been forced to resign. Will you resign?
Give us some space. Give us some space.
Why did you keep contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he pled guilty?
I look forward to testifying today.
Look, I definitely don't have a say in what Howard Lutnick's penalty should be for lying about his contact with Epstein, but at least he should have to spend the rest of his life walking at a snail's pace with cameras in his face while he is pelted with questions like that. I mean, unless this White House has a bigger punishment for the person.
So does the White House stand behind Secretary Lutnick right now, or given what he has said today, has there been any shift in how the White House is viewing Secretary Lutnick's performance?
No, Secretary Lutnick remains a very important member of President Trump's team, and the president fully supports the secretary.
Oh, one quick follow-up. Why? Howard Lutnick joyously lied his face off to the American people about his degree of engagement with one of the most renowned and vile characters our country has ever known, and this administration doesn't believe any amount of admonishment is in need. This is from a White House that swore to take down everybody and everyone linked with Jeffrey Epstein, that brought on truth crusaders like Dan Bongino, who actually earned a fortune saying something like this.
That Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. We need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee-deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there.
So, is Dan Bongino shouting hell from the rooftops about his former co-worker's deception? No. And the reason is they don't care. This is the most ethically corrupt White House our country has ever experienced, where trust and responsibility take a back seat every single day. Honestly, let's review where the bar is for someone to really be fired in this administration. You don't get fired for lying about your connection with a rapist. You don't get fired for lying about the Epstein files being on your desk. You don't be fired for lying about texting confidential military plans to the family group chat. You don't get fired for lying about the fact that a murder everyone witnessed on tape occurred. You don't get fired for lying about firing tear gas at demonstrators. You don't get fired for lying about the billions of dollars you never really saved the government. You don't be fired for lying to Congress about your anti-vax-based jaunts. Not even the worker who tweeted a racist video of the Obamas was dismissed. We are the most powerful nation on the globe, and nearly every person in a position of leadership in this government gets to somehow mess up in the most damning of ways before ever being shown the door, given the falsehoods and crimes they've perpetrated. They should not have a third, fourth, or fifth opportunity. It should be, One and absolutely done. Exactly. Before you leave, if you love this material and want to see more and support independent journalism, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the fact is that we are now in a political situation where this government can lean on any of the social media sites to block specific voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few internet billionaires who are already making it obvious that they are eager to cater to this government. To that end, signing up for my newsletter provides a mechanism for me to approach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll post the URL right here on the screen as well, so please join up. It's free, but there's also an option to make a paid membership if you'd want to help me and my team. I sincerely appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.